One day, in the middle of the night, a group of friends decided to go for a walk in a dark forest. They were not afraid of the dark and even forgot to take their lanterns. Their walk started out very well. They were talking and joking. But when they came out of the forest, they realized they were lost. They tried to find their way back, but each time they came to the same place. Finally, they saw a light in the distance and walked in its direction. But when they got closer, they realized that the light was in a house in a closed sanatorium for the mentally ill. They tried to move away, but it was too late as the staff of the sanatorium saw them. Now the friends are in the care of a psychiatric institution and say they can still hear screams and moans from the distant forest, which they find extremely terrifying. Once, on Halloween night, a group of friends decided to take a walk in an old abandoned cemetery, which is legendary for its ghosts and zombies. During the walk, they came across an old coffin with the name Mary written on it. The friends began to play with the old coffin, laughing and taking pictures near it. But when they turned to go further, they shuddered with fear. There was something strange on the coffin, like a broken nose, and the bones that were spread out next to it seemed very fresh. While the friends were thinking about this, they heard their names being called out loudly in the darkness. They were frightened and ran away, but when they turned back, they saw that something new had appeared on the coffin again. This time it said, "We will meet again." They ran out of the cemetery, opened the car and tried to drive away, but the car wouldn't start. Then they heard someone from the bushes saying, "I said we would meet again." They turned around and saw nothing. Then they tried to start the car again, and this time it worked. They left that cemetery and never went back there again on Halloween night, but they always remembered that strange and scary experience. One dark night, a young girl was returning home from work late at night. Her path passed through an old cemetery where there was an old, abandoned chapel. As she passed the chapel, she heard a strange sound and stopped to find out what it was. But when she was about to move on again, she immediately heard a voice say her name. She turned around, but there was no one to be seen. Fear gripped her and she began to run quickly away from the cemetery. But the voice kept saying her name from behind the chapel. Every step she took, the voice got closer until it was very close to her. The frightened girl turned around again and saw a shadow come out from behind the chapel and start to approach her. She tried to run, but the shadow caught up with her and took her hand. She turned around and saw her own shadow reflecting the light of the moon. It turned out that the sound she heard was her own voice, echoing off the walls of the chapel. Leaving the cemetery, she realized that sometimes the greatest fears have their roots in our own minds. There were two friends, Maria and Elena. They had always loved spending time together and sharing their secrets. One day, while they were walking in the woods, they came across a strange building that looked very old and abandoned. Maria wanted to get closer to see the building from a better angle, but Elena predicted that it was not very safe. Maria ignored her warning and started to climb the old staircase leading to the second floor. But when she reached the middle of the stairs, something scared her and she decided to turn back. But the stairs seemed to have changed and she couldn't find a way down. She started screaming and asking Elena to help her. But when Elena approached the stairs to help her, something stopped her. She saw Maria standing halfway up the stairs, but before Elena's eyes, her friend disappeared. Since that day, no one has ever found Maria, and her friend Olena has always remembered the terrible story that happened in the forest, and how she was unable to save her friend. They were called the Birch family, and they lived in the heart of the forest, where no one walked. There was a legend about them that they were not quite human, but more like animals. But few people paid attention to this story, because no one talked to them. One day, a new family appeared in the forest, and since then, people began to disappear, and the Birchie family became the main suspect again. One of the locals decided to find out what happened, and he learned the terrible truth about what happens in the forest at night when everyone is asleep.